It says we're on air. Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and welcome, dear viewer, whoever and wherever you are. I felt the rains down in Africa, and I have done in the last 3 days. Tropical storm Danao's just come through here, and boy, has it rained. So if this is intermittent tonight, it's probably because our internet connection is a bit dodgy. Joining us this evening from, I think I never get it right as to which way round the viewers see this, but I think from the right is who is that? That's Rob Swinnison from flyingwings.co.uk, and then Philipp from the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich, ETHZ, or AtlantikSolar, and that's what we're going to be talking about. And of course, Loretta Alkalay there, who's in New York this evening, or this afternoon for you. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Right, let's start with Philipp. Now, you have flown an aircraft, a solar-powered aircraft that has flown, or your team, for 4 days and 3 nights. How on earth can that happen? And that happened a couple of years ago, so I guess you're a bit further down the road now.
Exactly. So how this can happen is basically I would attribute it to the advances in battery technology and in solar power over the recent years. So basically what you can see behind me here is it's just the main wing of this vehicle. And you can clearly see that there are these solar cells on top. And what we basically did is that we integrated them into an aircraft of 5 meters wingspan, 7 kilograms mass, so very small aircraft. And basically through recharging the batteries during the day, but then using battery energy during the night to stay airborne, we managed to fly for these 4 days continuously with this aircraft.
And is that the complete chord of the wing there that we're seeing? That's the width of the wing, obviously exactly, not the length.
Yeah. Yes, this is the wingspan. Yes.
And what sort of batteries did you have on board? What sort of battery amount?
So this is basically lithium-ion technology. So the most important thing for us is obviously that they are very energy dense, right? And lithium-ion is something that has basically been jumping into the drone business in the last years. You might have seen the first people experimenting with that already. And this is what allows us to be that lightweight. Actually, something that might be interesting is, I don't know whether you can see that, there is actually our main battery pack lying there on the table and being tested at the moment. So this is around 1.3 meter long tubes. And what we do is that these battery packs, they are fully integrated inside the wings, so in the wing structure, which further helps us to reduce the overall mass.
Okay, you've knocked your camera off. Oh no, your camera's back. Okay, that's cool.
Is it?
So no, it's going again when you talk. So is it? It's all the way down, battery packs all the way down the fuselage then?
So it does go basically over the whole wingspan. Yeah, there is no batteries in the fuselage itself, but only in the wings. This is the span loader concept. Yeah.
Wow, and so the net aim of the project is to fly across the Atlantic. How's that going? How are preparations for that going?
Yeah. So basically, let's say this flight across the Atlantic. This was the original vision of the project, right? This is what made us develop this vehicle to investigate both this energetic reliability, but also, let's say, to develop a system that can actually fly in these harsh conditions, right? If you, for example, consider that you may not hit thunderstorms or you need to avoid rain, then this is something that you need to pre-plan. And this is what the research at our laboratory is about. Now, what I have to say is that basically the Atlantic crossing itself, this is something that we are not following anymore. And the main reason for this is actually the very hot topic of flight regulation, right? So we've been discussing with a lot of authorities about this flight in the US mainly. And the central challenge is, of course, the sense and void capability that you always have to have. And this is something that I guess in the drone business at the moment is not there, or at least not there as reliable as required by the authorities. And this is why basically you would not get permission for such a flight over this long distance, right, of 5,000 kilometers.
But at the end of the day, you're only going to be flying across the ocean, basically. Take off in Newfoundland, something like that. It's going to be seaside all the way.
Yeah, exactly. So this is also our train of thought. In addition, we'll be flying very low, right? So basically our aircraft is going to fly, or would be flying about 150 meters above the ocean. And we also figure that there is no obstacle in sight, right? But from what we have understood, this is basically the general rules of the air, right? That are also set up by ICAO. And this is something that just cannot be changed. So this is a strict requirement that you do need some means of avoiding other, let's say, vehicles or other objects that are in the air.
Well, we ought to get the guys from Aerosonde who years ago flew to Ireland
Yes.
doing that. I can't see why you can't. Logic tells me I can't see a reason why you can't repeat that flight. And I'm interested to hear you say you want to fly at 150 meters. That's not giving you any leeway. Well, it's giving you. Well, how are you planning on communicating? Is going to be my first question, and then. It's not giving you any leeway to sort anything out. If there's any issues with the aircraft, it's going to be in the organ before you know it. So why 150 meters?
Yeah. Okay. So to first answer that question, basically what you want to do is to fly as low as possible in order to conserve energy. Right. It's just the basic law of physics that has to do with air density. What we do in fact is that once the batteries are fully charged, we do ascend. Right. So if the batteries are full, we do ascend to basically store our excess power in potential energy. This is what Solar Impulse also does, or did when they flew around the world. This is also what a lot of the high altitude solar powered UAVs are doing. So this gives us some headroom there. And with respect to the other question on the flight regulations, so we definitely know about Aerosonde, and we are still amazed about how they did this. I would say the times have just changed immensely. So we have been in close contact with members of this team, and they basically said, I mean, there's also a very nice report actually about how they achieved all of this on the internet. I really suggest people that are interested to read that. But they also told us that at these times, they could basically, with good contacts to the local authorities, they could get the allowance to actually perform such flights. But I think with the upcoming larger amounts of drones that are in the air, and also this public sensitivity with respect to that topic, the regulations are being enforced much more stricter.
Oh, that's a very great shame. Rob, have you got any questions about the airframe? I'm sure you've got some.
I just, I was going to say, why, when you say you climb to a higher height, is that up to about 600 meters when it's light, or do you try and maintain 150 meters?
So what we do, or what the plan was, one has to say, right, is to basically get the maximum potential energy, but to stay within uncontrolled airspace. And this would have been 1,500 meters above the sea. This is the maximum that would have been allowed in this uncontrolled airspace.
Okay, and what's the all-up weight?
That is 7 kilograms of the whole aircraft. And
okay.
That does, I mean, just maybe because it's interesting for some viewers, basically 7 kilograms total mass. Of this, there is 3 kilograms of lithium-ion batteries. That's approximately 45%. So quite a lot. And then there's 1 kilogram, a bit less, of solar panel. And the rest is basically payload, avionics, structure, and so on.
And is it Pixhawk controlled?
Exactly, yeah.
So
Pixhawk is one of the projects that we've been very active in. As you might know, so basically the project was initiated at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology. And yes. We have been together with the Computer Vision and Geometry Lab, we've been contributing to the Pixhawk code during this project too.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I'm just starting out supplying Pixhawk related hardware and software, so I really like that project at the moment, so it's good stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
And tell me, the solar panel, the wings, is most of the strength in the solar panels for the rigidity, or the rigidity in the wing? Are they laid onto a normal wing structure, or How does that work?
Yeah, exactly. So maybe I can also show this here. So this here is like, it's one of our test cells. I mean, as you can see, it's already a bit destroyed. But basically what you have is some very, very thin layer of Kevlar. This is the yellow part here. And then just some foil on top and the solar cells in between. This is, I have to stress, not load carrying. Okay, so basically the aircraft is designed such that the spar or the carbon fiber there carries all the load, and the solar cells are basically just lying on top. I know that so there's great concepts on load carrying solar cells that definitely make sense. For us, we basically decided that we want to focus the complexity on, the complexity which is already plenty in such a project, on certain other areas.
And if you can tell us, how long does it take to charge the battery packs if there's good sunlight?
So this totally, of course, depends on the conditions, right? So basically what we've seen during this 81-hour-long flight that we did in 2015, and also during 26 or 28-hour flights in 2016, was that we mostly have the batteries fully charged back at 12 o'clock, or let's say at 1 o'clock of the day. This is local times in that case. So basically, let's say when you start charging at 8, then it requires 4 hours to be fully charged again.
And then that's when, if you could, if you're allowed to, you would climb with the extra power, as it were, to the as high as you possibly could, right? As high as you possibly could. And then, of course, you could coast downhill all night, really, or for not all night, but for a long time anyway. But regulation is stopping you flying these aircraft in the most efficient manner, then, really.
Exactly. So basically, the aircraft. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, have you taken it to controlled airspace, to a danger area, a military area, say, and flown it, so you can go as high as you possibly can?
No, so we haven't done altitude tests yet. We've always flown in uncontrolled airspace. We have had some missions where we basically flew with partners from security agencies, but nothing where we actually tested altitude limits. No. Because
you really are the only other properly successful solar-powered aircraft as against the Kinetic Zephyr, which is the European Aerospace Zephyr, or whatever, EAD Zephyr, I think now. Yeah, Airbus, the Airbus Zephyr, because that flew for 300 odd hours or something, 2 weeks, wasn't it? Something like that.
It's impressive, yeah.
So that, and yes, what I liked about that most was I actually know one of the chaps that flew it, and they say it's launched by six blokes and real ale, which is a very English way of mentioning it. So they chucked the thing down the runway.
Yeah, we just need one of them off Swiss.
So it strikes me straight away, you could go out to West Wales in the UK, where they've got great big drone-centric danger areas and big areas inland, and you could fly there for days and days and days, apart from the Western European weather. So I think you should get on the phone and call the guys at AOPA and do some high-altitude testing there. It would be just the place for you. So I should imagine Switzerland might not be big enough for what you need, really.
Yeah, there's some truth to that. That, for example, if you look at applications, right? So what we are actually interested in is to do some large-scale or long-endurance aerial sensing with these aircrafts, right? And for example, if you look at large-scale agricultural sensing, you do need the appropriate big fields, and these do not exist in Switzerland. Yeah, so there you actually do need to go to other countries like the US, like Russia, Ukraine, to actually make use of what these aircrafts can deliver.
And so when you're flying it for 81 hours, how many guys were in the flight team, and what did you do? Was it nail biting for 81 hours, or did you set up your HQ in a pub somewhere?
This is our goal, basically. So in that instance, so when we flew for that time in 2015, we always had, let's say, 3 people on the ground. And of course, you always had the shifts. I mean, the operational complexity, let's say, was quite high for for such a university project, right? And basically what we have is we always have one safety pilot, so they don't necessarily have to intervene, but they always have to be there, of course. Also, again, for the sense and avoid thing. And then we have one ground station operator, and that's about the minimum that you would need at this point. What's maybe interesting to notice that what we did this year, so 2016 or last year, is that we did a fully autonomous flight of 26 hours. So without any need for a pilot there.
So you say without any need, obviously the aircraft's autonomous. So for the 81-hour flight, was that pilot in the loop or just monitoring? I'm not quite with you with the autonomous and the and pilot in the loop bit.
Okay, so yeah, to make it more clear, so basically we always do have a safety pilot, but during the 81-hour flight in 2015, the pilots were during launch and also during landing, were still flying the plane. Okay, and the autopilot was basically handling the rest. And so for this year, during all instances of the flight, so during launch, but also during landing, the plane was fully autonomous. So the pilot did not need to change a single switch or lever during all the 1 day of flight.
And do you harness autonomous soaring at all with that?
Yeah, we do.
Thermal soaring, yeah. Okay.
Yes, exactly. So this basically supports our solar cells that also recharge the batteries. There is for those interested a video on our YouTube channel where you can actually see AtlantikSolar, so our plane, using thermals to gain altitude, and that also worked quite neatly during the flight of the last year.
I've done some of that with again with Pixel, and it is just amazing. It is all good technology should look like magic, and autonomous soaring does look like magic. It really, well, it is magic. It's wonderful. So yeah, I'm very impressed with that. Jean's just joined us. Jean's also got a solar project on the go, and we're talking to Philip from Switzerland. 81 hours. So there's something for you to beat there, Jean.
I don't know if I could stay awake that long.
Well, I think he said I think I'd want like a pub and an ice cream van or something. I can imagine lots of amenities I'd require for that sort of a thing.
For next year, yeah, we'll order the ice cream van.
Yeah, I think at a minimum you need an ice cream van or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's very cool. I'm sure. Have you got any questions for him, Gene?
No, I missed out on what kind of cells they were. Were they AtlantikSolar cells, or were they regular standard silicon cells?
This is basically the regular standard sun power cells. So this is the cells that Solar Impulse also use. And so basically what we decided was that we do not go for all these very expensive space grade cells, but for something that's just, let's say, cheaper to purchase and that can be used by more people. Actually, maybe, so this is interesting. What we've observed is that if you look at YouTube or at the social networks, in the past 1 or 2 years, a lot of people, a lot of different projects with solar-powered flight have popped up. And they basically, most of them use exactly these cells. And I think that's really something great, that there's a solution by SunPower out there that can be used in that way.
That's outstanding. And, go ahead, Loretta. I'm sorry.
I was going to ask a question about the legal aspects, why he was told no. So why don't you continue with your technical questions?
Oh, I was just going to comment that there may be some interesting news coming out of Switzerland here, maybe this spring, with some AtlantikSolar cells and one of our aircraft. So just giving you a little bit of a heads up on that one. So you heard it here first. But go ahead, Loretta. Ask your question about the legalities.
Yeah, okay. I just want to know, who told you couldn't do it, and what was their reasoning exactly?
So basically, as I said, so FAA was one of the agencies that we talked to. We basically did not start an official request, but started the preparations for it. And the reasons, as I said, is basically that the requirement, or what you always have to provide, is some sense in the void. in the airspace, and this is something that drones at the moment just cannot provide reliably, and we also cannot. And this is the main reason why this was not allowed in the very end.
Because, I mean, one, you got an exemption, but did you consider flying, as I think Gary said, to Newfoundland and not flying to the U.S.?
Yes, yeah, of course. So we did, but there it's the same deal. So despite the fact that the Canadian authorities about, what is it now, 16 years ago actually did allow the Aerosonde flight, they have also changed their regulations. So we were also in contact with local researchers there, and they were basically also not very positive about getting the allowance to fly from there.
And
Okay,
going. Sorry, Loretta.
No, I was just going to say, it just seems very disappointing that you can't test this, and hopefully you're working with legal counsel that can articulate ways that you could do this, because I mean, it's unfortunate if you can't do a test. I mean, there has to be a way to get an exemption to do.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that working with legal counsel is a good thing. I guess not only in our case, but in many situations or challenges that the drone industry is facing at the moment. Right? Yeah.
And I would have thought if you really, you might be able to go to a g'day Bruce as well, mate. I would have thought you'd have been able to go maybe to even a British, one of the islands that's still under British jurisdiction on that size, and fly CAA all the way. There must be a way around this. Loretta's a legal mind, ex-FAA in America. She'll sort it out for you. She knows someone. She'll sort it out.
No, I want you to do it.
Yeah. No, this would be great. Yeah. I mean, basically the aircrafts are here. So we do have 3 aircrafts. At the moment, we are more looking into local search and rescue operations. So to actually do aerial scanning and detection of humans that are in help. This is what we're focusing on now. But the opportunity to, like, on a technical level, still attempt that is still definitely there, yes. No,
it's a great thing. It's an amazing project. I've been following it since you started. So well done to you and everyone there. It's quite an amazing thing. I think we'll jump quickly now, if we may, to Rob, who has just released, I think this last week or something like that. Let me get a picture of it up here. Should prepare things in advance, shouldn't I? Here we go. Okay, he's just released the Falcon Vertigo, also running on the Pixel platform, and a separate lift thrust vehicle. We were speaking to Simon Wilkes a couple of weeks ago, and he did his best job to convince me that these things had a point. So I'm going to put it to you, Rob. Can you tell me if they've got a point?
Well. Yes, they do. I was a little unsure, like most of you, when we first started out with this project. And so I built up a prototype, and we put the firmware from Simon and Co. on it. And I took it to our local field, as you'll probably know it, Gary. And I could not crash the damn thing, because I tried my best, put the wrong motors on the back, and did every schoolboy error in the book, and I could not crash it, because every time the wing stalled, it went back into multi-rotor. If the multi-rotor did something strange or cut out, it just glided down again. So I was thinking, well, hang on a minute, there's definitely some advantages here for starters. And I'm still using that original demo plane that I built, albeit I did fly it into some trees at some stage. But and once we got the tablet software running with it, which did take a little bit of testing, it's just boringly simple. And what you really got to look at it, I think, mainly is an extended range multicopter, rather than a fixed wing with a with a quad system on it. So
when you say, sorry, Rob, when you say extended range, how long does this fly for? And I see you've got two versions there. You've got a hybrid VTOL ready to fly for £1,195, and the a kit airframe kit only for 200 quid or 5 pence short. That's a lot of wedge for both of those. What do I get with what? Yes, actually, first off, what is the endurance on it?
On the endurance side, it's only really that one's a demo and a technology demonstrator. So you'll get mainly probably about 25 minutes on fixed wing side, maybe a bit longer. It depends on how high you want to take off from and other factors like wind. It's always windy here. So it's just a technology demonstrator. It's quite small. It'll take a GoPro. We are working on a bigger one, which will have probably up to about 3/4 of an hour to an hour's duration. So it's it's about 25 to 35 minutes on a good go. The difference between the two kits is the RTF includes everything, including a Dropix controller with everything all built in. It's literally there's a lot of labour involved in building it as well. The smaller kit is simply just an airframe, and we do pre-assemble the more trickier parts for the customers. But any customer who wants anything from the basic kit right up to the RTF, then we will sort that out for them. So
that's the wing center section and the motors and motor mounts is in the RTF.
Oh, absolutely everything. All you need is a receiver and a transmitter, or just a tablet. That's it. And
the Drotec and the control board as well. Wouldn't you need
everything's all in there installed, ready to with the firmware on board. Everything's ready to go.
Sorry, I'm talking about in the kit there, Rob, not in the kit. The kit. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's the hardware, all the carbon fiber tubes, all the mounting brackets, all the wiring harness. So yeah, it's quite a lot you get quite a lot for the money, really. I think so.
I should go for full disclosure here. I've known Rob for years, and Rob and I have crashed many things together. So for you to say you've not crashed it, that for me personally, that resonates.
I did miscalculate with the height of trees, which were over 30. Which were over. I dialed in 30 meters, and they were about 35 meters. So,
I did it. I did exactly that here the other day. I had to get an arborist out to save the day. I did exactly the same. Yes.
Yeah, 3/4 of an hour searching for it. But it was it survived, and a few more hideously expensive Grabner propellers, and we're back in the air.
And have you? I think has it been out for 2 weeks? Have you actually sold any? Because it's an expensive thing.
Yeah, we've sold 5 with three possibilities coming along, and again a few to software developers, and but we're working on a bigger machine, which will give your sort of holy grail of about 3/4 of an hour to an hour. And we also have a fixed wing program going on in the background as well.
By that you mean a standard?
A standard flying wing, yeah. In fact, two sizes of flying wing. We're trying to ascertain the best size and weight for a general use mapper.
Okay. Sorry, Gene, did I stamp on you there?
Yeah, you did, but that's okay. I was just going to ask how big of a battery are you flying in that one?
In the hybrid, it's a 4,000 milliamp 4-cell.
And Bruce, have you sharpened your pencils with your designs at all? Because we were talking tail sitters rather than separate lift thrust. Have you thought any more on this?
Yeah, I've had a few ideas. I've been thinking around, and stay tuned. you might see something, probably not next week, but maybe the week after I'll have something to show you, which may or may not work, but I'll share it either way.
Well, hopefully we'll get to see that on one of your Friday videos when you're not posting jet videos, which seems to be your life at the moment.
Yeah, I've been pretty busy doing that. There was a lot of action down here last weekend, but it's got quiet again now, so I can get back onto my core business.
So it's some fantastic jets there. I think we said it last week. You know, it'd be a very cool thing to have, but I cannot imagine flying that amount of money, or not flying it, crashing it. I can imagine crashing it, and I can imagine the conversation I'd have with Sarah, and it wouldn't be a good conversation. It would be very one-sided.
Yeah, you'd be buying lots of jewelry and handbags and shoes, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, it's Rob that takes lots of jewelry and handbags and shoes, but that's another story altogether. That's all right. It's another thing altogether. Loretta, DJI, firmware, issues, class action. What's going on?
A couple of days ago, a DJI owner filed a lawsuit as a class action, I believe in Pennsylvania, alleging that a software update from December of 2015 that he made in September of 2016 caused his video to go blank, and that DJI initially had said they would repair it for free and then wanted to charge him $250. So he's filed a lawsuit and claims that there are a lot of similarly situated people, so he filed it as a class action. And he claims all kinds of violations of warranties and under state law. But he filed in federal court because he's in Pennsylvania and DJI is incorporated in California. So I don't know what the truth of the allegations are, but it affects the Phantom 2 Vision and 2 Vision Plus, as I understand it.
So how wide a net is he casting then? Help me understand, how many people would he need to get in? I guess he's got to get a whole stack of people in with similar issues and prove that they had those issues. And then does this have the potential to look at all models of Phantoms and any upgrades, or will that only affect that one particular type or those two types?
Well, I haven't looked at class action litigation in a long time, but in order to certify a class, the judge has to agree to certify the class. And you have to be able to show that the class is too numerous that you can't name each individual plaintiff, and that the person who's filing has pretty similar interests so that he's a good representative of the class. So I don't know if he'll be able to make either one of those and any other issues that he has to prove to certify the class. If he doesn't certify the class, then he's got to pay for his attorney. So a lot of times attorneys will only take a case if it's a class action, because then they can get real money because they'll get a percentage of the amount. But if it ends up that the class is not certified, then, you know, it's very likely, you know, that they'll settle for the $250 and get rid of the lawsuit, because it's not going to be the attorney fees.
Won't DJI just have a clause that says if you do a software update, it's up to you, mate?
I don't know. I don't know what is in their contracts and their agreements. I mean, most organizations these days require you to go to arbitration, and so I don't even know how they ended up in court. If there's something that's not in DJI, or if this is something that's not usually covered. Because you know now, if there's a problem with your car or your cell phone in the States, you really can't go to court the way you used to. You have to go to arbitration.
Yeah, there's been some P4 issues again, which we spoke about briefly last week, where it was changing where the home point was, and that was within Android, the Android app, and that caused a lot of flyaways that I saw. Well, not flyaways; it was flying to where it thought the home point was. It was just 600 or 700 meters away from where it actually was, and that's just happened. So, well, I don't know. A show of hands here, but I don't actually update the firmware in my DJI gear. If it's working, I leave it. I don't touch it. Does anyone else do the updates? Just Gene, you do the updates, Gene?
Pretty faithfully. Now, I will say that I have had both my controller and my aircraft get bricked while I was out in the field, and went through just a whole gob of different things to try to get it going. But Android was the issue more than anything else. And if you update using only an SD card, then you're a lot better off than trying to do it over the wire. There generally tends to be corruptions and things go wrong with it. And since we've adopted that method of doing it, we've got, I don't know how many DJIs we've got in here. We've got 2 Inspires, 4 4s, 8 3s, and 21s. And, that's
Bingo.
what we always download the firmware onto an SD card, and we haven't had any issues since.
Yeah.
Haven't you guys been reading the mainstream media, though? We see the stories on the wires today. It's all down to cosmic rays from outer space. They're bit-flipping computer systems everywhere. And I'm wondering, should we be allowed to fly these dangerous drones without having them hardened against these alien rays that are going to bring down airliners and fry your cell phone? And, oh, gee, what a load of fake news.
Well, Rob and I used to drink with Cosmic Ray, and yeah, he is a bit of a man. Yeah, no, I know. So I thought it was interesting that the actual first port of call that a lot of the articles were going for was your cell phone, and it was going to ruin your day with your cell phone. I thought that was interesting. But I think that storm's gone by, isn't it now? Or are we still part of it?
I don't know. It seemed to be based on a NASA press release where NASA are doing a study into the effects of cosmic rays at high altitude on aircraft, avionics, and passengers. And it looks like NASA put this press release out, and all the tabloid media jumped onto it and said, it's aliens attacking us and we're all going to die. You know, I'm thinking, good grief.
Yeah, those Allens again. And did we all see the another one that caught my eye that the press picked up? Well, 2 things actually. They just seem to be picking up today. The Amazon's patent. Look at Amazon and their patents going for steerable parachutes, which have been around forever. Yeah. But yeah, I can't really see how that's going to save their day. And just before we went on air, UPS.
That's right. I was just fixing to bring that one up.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? I thought that's got a little bit of a merit in that you take the delivery drone in your UPS truck to closer, and whilst that's off doing one delivery, you're off doing another delivery. So that gets rid of the moving a 2 kilo package one at a time between a fulfillment center and a customer a little bit. But I still think we're several light years away from delivery drones. I don't know. What were you going to say about it, Gene?
I was going to say it had some merit too, because I don't know what sort of double duty. I personally know my UPS driver here, and he's got a lot of room in his truck. I don't know if he's going to have the bandwidth from, keeping up with where he has to go next and sending the drone up to the one that's close and then trying to get over there and make sure he rendezvous with the aircraft. I'm sure it's got some sort of follow me circuit built into it or pathway into it. But I think my UPS guy might have a little bit of a problem keeping up with all the tasks that he had to do to launch and load and drive to the next spot and, that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a little bit crazy, that one. And I don't know if you've also seen, and I was going to try to get them on, but AOPA have just launched a membership scheme that allows for drone operators, for 107 and private operators, and they're going to have training and all that safety good stuff. So I think that's a little bit of a leap forward, that the manned aviation community reaching out to the droners, as it were. I think it's a good thing. I don't know. What do you think, Gene?
When you consider, they've come out. General aviation as kind of a whole has fallen off significantly here in the U.S. And the AOPA is driven by mostly general aviation pilots, and they've started this massive drive to get people back in the cockpit. And one of their programs is called Rusty Pilots. And I went. It was a good little program. I got in on when it was free. And it served as your orals for the FAA test and for the biennial. And all you had to do was go get a check ride, and you were back in the cockpit again. And we had some discussions with a couple of the AOPA folks at the expo, the SUSB Expo, last year. And they were very interested in trying to get people educated simply because their membership was concerned with drones. Obviously, a small airplane is going to be more heavily damaged, if you will, or could potentially be brought down by a drone versus 747. So they were really wanting to get the folks educated, not only the folks who are trying to fly the drones, but the guys that were out of the cockpit and have kind of picked up drones to fly vicariously, if you will, and maybe encourage them to get back into the cockpit and fly more. So, AOPA has got a pretty big lobby. They can throw their weight around pretty well if they want to. And I think it's a good thing personally. I will likely join AOPA because they have a lot of benefits that whether you're a pilot or not, you get legal help and legal advice. And if they're going to take the Part 107 as well, there you go. You can call them up and ask them anything you want to ask them, and you got access to a lawyer. So that's my take on it.
Well, I was pretty excited about the drone user group. I think there are going to be some conflicts of interest with AOPA, and I do think they're an excellent organization. They've done very well for GA, and I think the legal services plan is worth its weight in gold, but I do think that they're going to have some conflicts, and I was happy to see the drone user group starting a membership drive, and if they get enough members, they're going to be offering some of the same things that you get with AOPA, including the legal services plan, primary insurance, and other things like that. Plus, it would be a drone group as opposed to an add-on the way AMA was and the way AOPA would be.
It's moves in the right direction, isn't it? And I think AOPA, as Jean said, certainly has the advantage of being very well known to the FAA, and that can't be a bad thing. So things are still going in the right direction. So we need to get AOPA to lobby for AtlantikSolar to do the flight as well. We need to call them up, and we want that flight to happen. I really want that flight to happen.
That would be great.
Yeah, we were talking earlier, Bruce, about how they can't get permission to do their AtlantikSolar flight because of paperwork, basically, which is a very great shame. So
I find that all very interesting. I don't know if you're old enough, Gary, but I remember back when Maynard Hill flew a drone, otherwise known as model aircraft. I think he flew one to 22,000 feet to establish a world record. And I'm pretty sure there was a transatlantic flight as well. And there was no paperwork, there was nothing. Just flew the damn thing landed in Ireland somewhere or something like that. But I mean, they just flew the damn thing. No one was scared it was going to bring down an airline or anything. And things haven't changed that much in that last, 35 years or something. But now, I don't know. And this whole risk thing, we're talking about the pilots being afraid of drones and trying to get the rusty pilots back in. Hell, I wouldn't get back in a full-size aircraft with all these drones around. But I see that a light aircraft crashed in Australia, 5 died, crashed into a shopping area. Fortunately, no one on the ground was killed. But we're overlooking constantly the fact that drones themselves are a hell of a lot safer than full-size aircraft. So why are we being regulated almost out of existence when it's the full-size aircraft that are falling onto shopping centres and killing people?
Yeah, I think that was Spirit of Butt Farm, wasn't it? TAM 5 that did the that flight. And as for that accident in Australia, I used to land at that airfield quite a lot, and I couldn't believe that they had built a shopping centre over the airfield fence within the airfield boundary to the side of the runway. I mean, Oh, it beggars belief, doesn't it? I'd love to have seen the planning application for that, really. How on earth did they let that happen?
The risk assessment, yeah.
Yeah. So of course, it's given the local residents who've all moved in. The airfield's been there since time began, almost, and they've actually got a big grass area at the end of one airfield, and it's called Boeing Field, and it's called Boeing Field because it was it was a runover area for the 707s because they could only just squeak out of the place, so they left a huge area of grass free just in case they had to make use of it for stopping or whatever. That's because the local. Go on, mate.
What I find interesting also is that the pilot in that particular crash was under investigation, and there was a case pending against him. It had been pending for quite some time, but it looks like the aviation authorities are all too busy chasing drones to deal with pilots who have endangered other people's lives. It's like we're being vilified. We need to. That AOPA, they're a very powerful body in the States. They've got FAA recognition, and so we do need the drone user groups that Loretta was talking about to represent us as a body, as a unified group of people, or we're not going to get any traction.
Yeah, well, interesting. I've asked if the AOPA guy would be great to join over there. I'd even consider doing it here because AOPA here hates drone operators, and it's completely against AOPA South Africa's sort of point of view. They must have. I should imagine they're sinking a couple of beers tonight, wondering what on earth to do about this. If HQ is telling them to start loving droners, you know, it's a changing perspectives. That's for sure. So let's move along very quickly. Did we all see the thing? Can anyone name the drone thing that is most likely to chop your legs off if you fly it? Did everyone see it? You must know what I'm talking about.
The holobike.
Scorpions.
Yeah, that's it. That didn't look in any way dangerous, did it? Not in any way dangerous at all.
No, not at all.
No. I mean, a copter control and huge motors, what can go wrong?
Have you not got a picture of it?
I don't think I have, actually. Let's have a look for a picture of it. It's just too frightening, isn't it?
The video's even more edited.
It wasn't flying very well, was it?
Oh, well, it looked all right. I mean, for a multi-rotor.
There's everyone, of course, is claiming it's the first when it isn't the first by a long way. There's been several sort of flying motorbikes about, and that guy in England who does lots of crazy stunts.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the fellow. Yeah, he did a similar thing, and his was a balance, wasn't it? It was no flight controller at all. It was, must have taken him a while to learn how to do that. That's for sure. I'm trying to see if I can get a picture up for you, Rob. It's taking forever to. Oh, I see why. Because it's a bit of moving. Let's get this up.
Yeah, Popular Mechanics has got something on it.
Yeah, they're around and about. Here we go.
Yeah,
this should be moving. There he goes. There he is, bouncing around. It's all very, very horrible. But I will commend him for having a crash helmet and leathers on. That's one good thing.
It's interesting. They seem to have chosen to fly it indoors primarily, probably because of regulations.
It's in Russia, so I shouldn't think they care too much about that. I don't know.
Where's it from? Country?
It's Russian. It's Russian.
Oh, yeah, they wouldn't care.
Oh, Russia. No.
Fly anyway.
Yeah, just too much snow outside.
Yeah, that's exactly why I thought they must have. It was probably way too cold outside to do anything about it. What else? Did anyone else spot anything else this week that caught their eye?
No, but interesting that DJI, that situation, the class action suit, DJI have a real business going with their repairs. I've got a friend here in New Zealand. He's got a DJI Phantom, and the gimbal started giving trouble. So I took it in for service under warranty, and they came back with an invoice for $900 saying that it was crash damage and it needed 4 new motors, new undercarriage legs, a new gimbal controller, and new propellers. And all those bits were fine. It was just the gimbal was a little bit jittery. So I think they have learned that there's a lot of money to be made out of repairs, perhaps more than even selling the original product.
Yeah, I think so. But of course, in terms of all things DJI, I blame Rob, because you probably don't realise that Rob actually was the inspiration for DJI. Perhaps you could explain how your repairs service is working, Rob, and how you got to inspire DJI.
Well, I'm not 100% sure, but about 10 years ago, I went to the great Nuremberg toy fair, which I do recommend because it's absolutely amazing. And I saw a very lonely Chinese man there under the DJI banner, and I think he was there with his wife. And I just brought out my tricopter, funnily enough, called the Scorpion, back in the day using 5 little gyros off helicopters. And I was desperate for some sort of integrated board that I could put on it that didn't involve miles of wire. And I said to the guy, and his English wasn't good, that he should bring out a fully tuned multi-rotor controller. And the one he was selling was extremely expensive. I think it was more for the very high end. And I said, you want a cheap one, and then and build a kit as well. I never really thought about it until about 5 years later, and I remembered that it was DJI. So yeah, I'm waiting for my royalties anyway now at the moment.
And the other one, I share for you. The other one I always feel sorry for you that you were mercilessly copied for was your famous FPV goggles, which have gone nuts. Your put a reversing camera of a screen in some foam.
That's it. Yeah, I did manage to sell about 10,000 units before I was mercifully copied by yes. I wasn't going to say, but
I think it's kind of like a badge of honor, isn't it, Rob? If your product gets the Hobby King, you must have done something right.
Yeah, I think it's got to be some credit, I guess. Yeah.
You just got to know. Someone's got to know the real story, though.
I did sell a lot of reversing cameras or reversing screens as well.
Oh dear me!
eBay was hot in those days. Yeah.
Yes, of course, that's where you're getting them from, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So you're the separate lift thrust. Then you see that as a platform's got a future. Then
I do actually. Yes, certainly for pilots who don't have much skill and are working out of tight areas with the fixed wing. It's the landing really is the problem, whereas this is literally with the tablet system is so simple. Take off vertically, fly off, do your waypoints, come back, and land. It really is very, very simple. But also, as I said, we're also developing fixed wing as well. Plus, we're moving on with the Pixhawk, and we have our own tracker coming out as well. So we hope by the summer to have what I call the holy trinity of control systems, i.e. an autopilot, which will be based on Pixhawk, a tracker, and an OSD, because FPV is still our biggest market now.
Rob, if I may, what's the primary kind of market that you see for the VTOLs?
Well, I think it would be mainly for mapping, aerial photography, that sort of side. And I can see actually once people get over the fear factor, I suppose, I think it'd be really great for FPV as well.
Just because of the VTOLness of it.
Yeah, and it's unique and it's good. It's one of these things that you have to see before you believe.
Yeah,
well, I can assure you that search and rescue would be interested in something like that as well, because we end up having to fly out of some of the most god-awful places, and it would work.
Yeah, it would, and yeah, I mean, again, it's probably less efficient than fixed wing because you are dragging around some extra weight, but it's as we say here, it's horses for courses. So you know, it satisfies certain circumstances, and we're on the bigger one. I'm hoping to have it that you can detach the wings and just fly it as multi-rotor, and then bolt on the wings and fly it as a hybrid.
And have you looked at petrol motors, or is that a bridge too far?
Yeah, I think so. We're not beyond. We're mainly an EPP foam manufacturer, so that only goes up to a certain size. So up to about 4 kilos in weight is about our limit, and without going to composites and things like that we're not really into at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think I've got to build one. I've got to build one and try and fly it and see the advantage. And I think, I'll see. But it's the year. I think people are beginning to put the bubble is that this is the year of separate lift thrust, where it's going to really start and hit the market. And I guess we just have to wait and see.
Yeah. Well, you had the big Airbus project, or the Airbus challenge. And it did make me laugh that the winner was the guy who basically drew an Airbus with a couple of propellers on it.
Yes, and they haven't made it fly properly yet, have they? Either it's really
no, it was it wasn't very inspiring, I've got to say. But yes, I think it's got a future.
It looked great in CAD, didn't it? It looked fantastic in the computer gen. Bruce could probably make a fantastic one on his rendering system there. Yeah. I can't wait to see the results of your render work there, Bruce. It'll be amazing. I know it will. It'll be like Avatar all over again. I think people do set up to fly things like that. I think any of those competitions, we've said it before, any of those competitions really should not just have renderings. You must turn up with something that actually flies, and then we'll look at it again. Don't bring me a rendering. I don't want to see a rendering.
Yeah, absolutely.
Impossibility. That's craziness. Look, we're just coming up to the top of the hour. Does anybody have anything else?
Yeah, there was one thing that I got contacted on this week that I thought was pretty interesting. We talk about batteries all the time. There is a company that contacted us to beta test some batteries for them out of Colorado. They're completely different chemistry. They are said to have 2 times the energy density of a lithium ion, and it is non-flammable.
Oh.
So, I've contacted them, and it's SII Lion, and I went ahead and sent them an email and said we'd beta test them for them. So it's going to be interesting to see, because I've always said that there's going to be another battery come out, especially a primary battery or secondary battery we can recharge. And there's going to be one come out that's going to be safer and have more energy density. And maybe this is the one.
Well, even if it was 1 for 1, and the non-flammable bit would be enough to move things quite a bit. That would be enough in itself, wouldn't it? I think. What's your thoughts, Bruce?
Well, price is always going to be a big issue, isn't it? Because you can make any kind of battery if you've got enough money. And there's been a lot of promising technologies like, what are you looking at, aluminium-based batteries, and batteries that are based on air, which make them, aluminium and air is very light. A lot of those battery technologies are there, and they can be incredibly efficient with extremely high energy densities, but they're so damn expensive that no one would buy them. So you see these announcements every now and then, new battery technology with all these benefits, and then it just disappears, because once they go through the development phase and they work out the costs, people just aren't going to buy them. So that's the critical factor. Have you got any idea about cost, Gene? Did they give you any clues?
This is brand new, so I figured I'd just kind of throw it out there. You heard it here first, kind of deal, and we'll see what they come up with. We're going to probably talk with them on Friday.
So that was SII Lion. Was that a SII Lion?
Yes.
Sounds amazingly similar to Sion Power. You probably also know them, the lithium sulfur manufacturers that fly on the big high altitude UAVs.
Yeah. Let me see if I can bring that up for you.
It's going to come. But where's the market, I suppose, at the moment? It's the thing. Is the market in batteries for for bigger performance machines, or is the market for FPV racers? Where are you going to sell the most batteries at the moment?
Interesting. I came across an old LiPo the other day that someone brought in. It was a 3-cell, I think it was 1600 milliampere hours, and the price sticker on it was $85. And that shows you how much battery prices have dropped over the last, maybe 10 years.
Yeah, it's SIILion.com.
SIILion.com. Okay, we'll look at that. What's the is it still 2200 batteries, Rob? Is that still the most popular size? What's the most popular size you're selling now?
Yeah, probably that size. We don't really, because of that supplier of Hobby King, I'm going to say, I don't really sell them. Nobody sells any batteries because you just can't compete with it. No, there's no point. So I wouldn't say. I would have thought the most popular one is probably around about the 1300 for the FPV 250 racers now. And they chew them up quite quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, even my son's doing that. Oh, yeah, I built a wing. Well, I didn't build a wing. We got one of these. This is going to go off on an adventure. My son built this today. It's one of the flight test things.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, I'm very impressed. And I tell you what, I was even more impressed with, because we got two, was the size the package it came in. That's it, and that amazed me. So that's good deals. So one of these one of them hopefully be a mapping wing, and the other one will go off an adventure. But we'll have more of that later. That'll be the one that Dan built.
That'll be the one that flies.
Yeah, that'll be it. Yeah. Knowing me, this is how far this one will probably end up going. This will be on the shelf like this for several years. We come back in 10 years' time. Something with that one. Quite possibly. Look, it's 2 minutes past the hour. We've just gone past our time. So does anyone have anything else before we say goodbye? So it remains only for me to thank everybody very much for joining us. Dear viewer as well, wherever you are, thank you. You're clear to leave the room now. And I'm supposed to say subscribe and do things like that. Watch Bruce's channel. Only buy your wings from flyingwings.co.uk. Only get rescued by Gene. In fact, never come across Gene, ever, in a professional circumstance, because you don't want to. And legal advice for Loretta, of course. So thanks very much, everyone, for joining us. Subscribe at the bottom if you haven't already. And we'll see you again next week, same time, same about channel. Cheers, everyone.
Ciao, ciao.